Hey class, so we're back and I just wanted to cover a couple options in painting. So I want to add a paint layer, so that is the paintbrush right here. And this will allow me to paint with any kind of brush or material that I like. So I'm gonna scroll down to my brush options. You can see that we have options for scaling our brush, stroke opacity, alpha. So I actually used my alpha, so I'm just going to scroll on down. I think it's called standard. I always forget the name of the regular brush. There it is, shape. All right, so shape is the normal brush. So say if I just want to draw some sort of pattern or something, that's how I would do that. I can also change the color of what I'm brushing. So let's say I'm going to go with some darkish red. I can change the metallicness of it. So I'm going to make this more metallic. I can change the roughness. So if I want this to be more shiny or more rough. I can also change the height. So if I would like my object to maybe up the scale here, kind of push in a little bit, I can change that. And you can see it's got a little bit of an indent there. Or if I would like it to push out, I can change the height that way. And you can see now it's got a little bit of a bump. I could also use normal maps as well. For some reason they're not working particularly well on this model, but if I wanted to add, say, like a screw or something on my model, I could do that using the normal map here. And then here's the height. So I'm just going to reset that to normal. Okay, so another thing, so basically now I can just go around and brush all I like. However, I feel like that's not a particularly precise way. So what I like to do is actually open up my 3D, 2D view. And here, what I'm going to do is actually paint by UVs. So to do that, I'm also going to go over to the right here and select polygon fill. Polygon fill looks like two triangles with a little arrow on it. And what this lets me do is just drag a particular model or drag over an area, and that will fill that individual face of my model. So if I want to do this by faces, that's this first polygon or the second polygon option. This is similar, it's just by triangle. So that's triangle, polygon. The next one is by mesh, so let me click on that. So since this is all one big mesh, it will fill the entire mesh, but this can be helpful if you have multiple meshes on one UV. Let me just undo that. And then the next one is UV chunk fill, and this is where all the action is. So what I like to do with UV chunk fill is just click and drag, and it fills the entire UV with the color that I like. So I'm just going to change this back to maybe some red. Let's make it brighter red. And what I really want to do is fill these areas in the middle here. So there we go, it filled that entire UV chunk, and then I can click on, unfortunately these are all one big UV. So instead I'm gonna have to go to my polygon fill and just click on these guys. And I can do the same thing here. So if you're trying to get very specific with your fills, I highly recommend you turning on this polygon fill and using the UV chunk. Okay, so for the last thing, I just want to add like a different color to this top dome. I've looked through my materials and I kind of like this latex black. So what I'm going to do is actually grab it from the material library, and I believe it's a Smart Materials. So I'm going to just click and drag that. And then I'm going to right click and add a black mask. And then let's go back to my polygon fill properties and make sure that I've got UV chunk fill on, and I'm just going to click and drag over that one piece. So now if I turn off that, you can see that it just affected that one area and it's got like a nice shiny black. The last thing that I can do is, and I encourage you to explore these Smart Materials. So I'm just going to go into the little folder here. And you can see that this Smart Material is made up of a bunch of different layers here. So you can see that it's got grunge, it has surface refinement, which is kind of interesting. It also has different levels of noise, and then finally a base color. So if I did want to change this color, I could just go in here and actually change that fill color, wherever it may be. Here we go. So if I wanted to make it, I don't know, let's make it a yeah, creepy blue. There we go. Finally, the last thing is we can use our channels. So remember how I was talking about our material? It is made up of a color map, metal map, roughness map, normal map, height map. But there's also an option for opacity. So let's turn that on. And then if you just scroll down, you have options here for opacity as well. So I'm just gonna, right now, white means it's opaque, like you can't see through it. So if I click and drag this, I can actually get it so that it's somewhat transparent as well. So I don't want too much transparency, but maybe just a little bit of transparency. So you can play around with that if you want to put a character or something inside there. All right, hopefully that gets you started with stylized textures and some paint layers and how to change your opacity. All right, thanks class.